So what do you guys think of when you think of complex fractions? So complex fractions just means you have fractions within fractions. So they're a little bit more complex now. So for example, here is our fraction x plus 2 over 3 over x. So you have that fraction in the denominator of a fraction already. Or like our second one, we got 1 plus 1 over x all over 4x plus 5. So again, you got a fraction within the fraction. Or like our last example where you have a fraction in your numerator and a fraction in your denominator. So what we're going to do with our complex fractions is we want to get it down so that they actually end up looking like this third one here, so that you have a fraction over a fraction. Does anybody remember what it means when you have something over something else? What operation are they doing? Division. So this is saying I'm taking this fraction, I'm dividing it by that fraction. What are our rules of dividing fractions? It's got 3 letters. Keep, change, flip. So we would keep this one, change it to multiply, flip the second fraction. So that's our goal, is we want to get it to be one fraction divided by another one, and then you just use your division rules. Keep, change, flip. And so that's what this is saying here. Fraction divided by a fraction. It's just another way of writing it instead of using that division sign. So we do our keep, change, flip. So let's take a look at our first example down here. So we got 1 plus 1 over x all over 1 minus 1 over x squared. So let's look at just our numerator for now. So we're going to look at just up here. The 1 plus 1 over x. We want to add those together and make it one fraction. So we have to get a common denominator. Currently that 1 is over a 1 already. We don't always write it, but it's there. So between 1 and x, what would our common denominator be? X. So I want a common denominator of x. This second one here is already over an x, so I don't need to change that denominator. So I'm going to put my plus 1 there. Or actually, you know what? I'll do 2 separate fractions. So that second fraction already over an x, so that's going to stay as 1 over x. This one we've got to multiply top and bottom times x. Bless you. So we get x over x, which would simplify back down to our 1. So then adding those, we now have just a single fraction up top of x plus 1 over x. Once we got our common denominator, we can add them. So now let's look down here at the denominator. So 1 minus 1 over x squared. What would be our common denominator? X squared. We want this over x squared minus 1 over x squared. That second fraction was already over x squared, so that's going to stay as 1 over x squared. What do we have to multiply the first one times? X squared. So that becomes x squared over x squared. Now we have a common denominator. We can actually subtract. So x squared minus 1 over x squared. So now this is what we want. One fraction divided by another fraction. So we go to our keep, change, flip rules. Keep, change, flip. So my first fraction stays as x plus 1 over x. Top stays the way it is. So instead of divided by, we're going to change it to multiply. And then we flip our second fraction. So now it's x squared over x squared minus 1. So now we got to do a little bit of factoring. X squared minus 1, how does that factor? X minus 1 times x plus 1. That's our dots factoring right there. So now we can cancel our x plus 1 with our x plus 1. There is something else that we can reduce, not completely cancel, but we can reduce the x's. Remember, x squared means there's 2 of them there. So now if I take 1 away and I cancel with that 1 down in the bottom, I have just an x up top because it was x squared, so there were 2. Now I just have 1. So we have x over x minus 1. That ends up being our final answer. There you go. So now this one though, see it says for all values of the variable which the expressions are defined means we don't have to find restrictions. They didn't tell us to find restrictions. They just wanted us to simplify. So let's try our next one, number 2 on the back. So up top, that 1 is over a 1. So I got to get a common denominator between 16 and 1, which would be what? 16. So the x squared already over 16, so that's going to say is x squared over 16. What do we have to multiply the second fraction times? Times 16. So that would give us x squared minus 16 over 16. So top part, one fraction now, good to go. Bottom part, we got to get a common denominator. We got 8 and a 2. Can we make 2 turn into an 8? Yeah, so I'm going to use a common denominator of 8. To make that 2 turn into an 8, we'd have to multiply by 4. So we got to multiply our top by 4. So then our fraction for the denominator would be x minus 4 over 8. So again, now we do our keep, change, flip. We got fraction divided by fraction. So x squared minus 16 over 16 times 8 over x minus 4. So we got some factoring to do. This would be x minus 4 times x plus 4. So now what can we cancel? Those x minus 4's cancel. And then the 8 and 16 we can do some reducing. 8 goes into 16 twice. So that would give us x plus 4 over 2. All right, take a look. All right, so number 3, what should our numerator be up top? Or our denominator be in the numerator? Remember, multiply them together if you need to. So 4 times x, we want to use 4x as our common denominator. So that first fraction up top has the x, so that means we got to multiply it times the 4. So 4 times 4 gives us 16. That second fraction has the 4 already, so we need to multiply it by what? X. That would give us a 2x up top. So then combining those, so I get one fraction, I get 16 plus 2x over 4x. All right, let's look at the denominator. We got a 2x and we got a 1 as our denominators there. So what should our common denominator be? 2x. So that first fraction's already over 2x. So I'm going to keep that as 1 over 2x. Second fraction, we're going to have to multiply that 8 times 2x. So that gives us a 16x. So we get 1 minus 16x over 2x. That's our denominator. So now we're going to do keep, change, flip. Keep the top fraction. Change to multiply. Flip that second fraction. So let's take a look, see if we can do any factoring. Can we factor anything in the top of that first fraction? Yeah, we can GCF out of 2. That becomes 2 times 8 plus x. How about in the denominator? No. Well, I mean, we will eventually reduce it that way. I was just looking for factoring right now. And then, so yeah, no more factoring because this other denominator here, there's not even a GCF. So for reducing purposes, that 2x would reduce with that 4x, making it a 2 in our denominator there. Anything else we can reduce? There is, in fact, one more thing. The 2's will cancel each other out there. So up top, we have 8 plus x. Denominator, you have 1 minus 16x. That's our final answer for that one. So looking at number 4, I'm going to put all my denominators of 1 in there. That x is over 1, that x squared is over 1. So up top we would have a common denominator of 3. Because 3 and 1, just multiply them together. So that means I'd have to multiply that second fraction times 3, so that would give me a 3x over 3. So 2 minus 3x all over 3 is our new top fraction once we combined everything. For the bottom one, denominator of 9. Second fraction is already over a 9. First fraction we would have to multiply by 9 to get our common denominator. And that gives us 9x squared minus 4 all over 9. So now we'll do our keep, change, flip. So keep the first one, change to multiply, flip the second one. There is one of them that we can factor. Which one can we factor? Yep, the 9x squared minus 4, that's our dots factor. That would be 3x minus 2 times 3x plus 2. Let's start simplifying. What can we simplify? 9 and 3. So 3 goes into 9 3 times, so that 9 turns to a 3. And then there's one more thing we can reduce, but it would become a negative 1. Yeah, these ones would cancel and become a negative 1 because they're really the same thing, but they're flipped. So then up top, negative 1 times 3 will give us negative 3. In the bottom, we would have 3x plus 2. So negative 3 over 3x plus 2. All right, one more, number 5. So again, I'm going to put those over 1. This time our top and our bottom fractions are both going to have the same common denominator. What are they going to be? A minus b, because you got a minus b is one fraction's denominator. You got a 1, so multiply those, you get a minus b. So I got to multiply top and bottom over here times a minus b. So looking in the numerator, what ends up happening with our b's? You got a negative b and a positive b. They're going to cancel each other out. So we get a over a minus b for our numerator. For our denominator, again, a minus b is going to be our common denominator. So we got to multiply that first fraction times a minus b, both on top and the bottom. Second fraction stays the way it is. It's going to be a over a minus b. This time, what letter cancels out? The a's do, because a minus a is going to cancel each other out. So we get negative b over a minus b. So our keep change flip. A over a minus b times a minus b over negative b. Don't even have to factor this time. What cancels? A minus b. So we get a over negative b for our final answer.